morning, Marco. You're listening to the Good Morning Marco podcast. I'm your host, Jordan Kraley.
I'm Ryan Sullivan.
And today we have a special guest.
I'm Rich Blonna. I'm running for city council, currently a city councilor on Marco Island.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, Dr.
Oh, my
Rich.
pleasure.
It's been great having these. This is the start of the week 2 of our election specials. You're our fourth candidate that we've had on the podcast, so I want to say an extra special thank you to coming out here today.
You're welcome.
Especially, you kind of got the short end of the stick. The sun
Yeah,
was
it's hardly
better
in the
like
morning.
an hour ago. Yeah, yeah, it's about 4:30 in the afternoon that we're recording this. It was better a little bit ago, but yeah, it
Very
happens to the
good
best
morning.
of us. So before we get into all that, we do have 2 wonderful sponsors today
Right.
that I'm going to let Jordan tell us about our first one.
Our first sponsor today is going to be the Kava Culture Kava Bar here on Marco Island,
Excellent.
letting us use their furniture and their lovely space.
And their water?
Of course. Yes, we've got some amazing drinks out here today. Don't forget that their happy hours are from 2 to 5.
That is 2 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Correct. And they're open from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. They have a bunch of different events, a bunch of cool stuff, so make sure you follow their Instagram and keep posted on all of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And come out on Thursday nights for open mic night. That starts at 8 p.m. hosted by the wonderful Charlie Pace. And also on election night, so a week from tomorrow when this uploads, we will be here doing our own little special election event. We will be doing a mock debate for the best regular at the Kava Bar between the Jonathan Barr, Leanne Mattioli, and yours truly, Ryan Sullivan. So if you'd like to come out to that, we'd love to have you there. It's going to be bigly wonderful. Other than that,
Bigly wonderful.
bigly wonderful. Many people are. Anyway. We are also sponsored this episode by Raybert Media. A big thank you to Jordan and Christian Raybert from Raybert Media for providing a lot of the equipment that we use to run this podcast. If you are looking to get your wedding videography, or if you are a small company or large company looking for videography solutions for real estate videography, drone footage, any of that sort of thing, call Jordan and Christian. You can get in contact with them. Jordan at raybertmedia.com. That's Raybert spelled ROEBERT. It's like Robert, but there's an extra E in there. So once again, that's Raybert Media for all your videography needs. I'm telling you, these are some of the most talented guys in the country right now. So you're going to have to reach out to Jordan to get, not this one.
Yeah,
but
not me.
you're talented in other ways. But boy, Jordan is an extremely talented videographer, and you can see the massive quality jump that we've had for this podcast. So thank you very much to Raybert Media, and back to the podcast.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for joining
my pleasure.
us. Today, we would like to get you started with an elevator pitch. So basically, that's just going to be if you were to get on an elevator and you were to be going from floor to floor with some people, how would you describe yourself and what you stand for?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I'm going to throw you a curve because I was thinking about what would be the best thing right now that I could say or do or give you an example to kind of characterize where I'm at this point in my life at 73 years old and married 53 years, right? So I'm going to take you back. I had finished my doctorate. I was teaching and had written a few books. And one of the things I was teaching was stress management. And I wanted to start doing stress coaching. So I was looking into different coaching programs. I eventually got certified as a coach. But I came across this really fascinating program in a place called the Todo Institute of Japanese Psychotherapy. And it was a postdoctoral training program in Japanese therapy. And at the time I was interested in Buddhism. I still am. And I used to actually be in a Buddhist meditation group here. But this exercise will kind of crystallize what Rich Blonna is about at this point in time. So it's called A Perfect Day. And the idea was that students who were in this, we had to do a residential period where we spent 2 weeks there in Vermont, meditating every day, doing physical labor, and doing a lot of introspective stuff. So a perfect day is revolves around things called LDCs, or DLCs rather, daily life criteria. So if you could break your day down into 10 things that were your criteria for the perfect day, what would they be? Right. So and I did this every year with my students in 28 years of teaching stress management. So things like for me would be, well, I'd make love with my wife. I would read something. I would write something. I would cook a meal. I would get some physical activity. I would watch the sun come up and, and do a few more things. But those would kind of be the list. So I'm thinking when I got down here, I was still working full time, and it's like, well, how do I get these into a day? If I'm working full time, I'm commuting up to Jersey. Right. So I said, all right, I'm going to pick some of the ones that are really central to who I am. Well, one was physical exercise, so I would bicycle. So I would bike down to the beach. I love the beach and natural world. So
I can tell you it shows because I didn't think that you were 73. So
thank you. So bike down to Residence Beach at 6 o'clock in the morning. Run 3 miles on the beach as the sun comes up, and then come back and meditate for 30 minutes.
Is that every day?
Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Okay.
And I did that I've been doing that now 12 years in a row.
Wow.
And then meditate for 30 minutes and then bicycle back. So I knocked off 2 forms of physical activity, biking and running, meditating, which I'd love to do, watching the sun come up. And that's how I started my day. And actually, when I ran for council in 2020, one of the first things that I checked out was, am I required to be at work before like 9 o'clock? Because, I do all this between 6 and 9. And they said, oh, no, we never do anything before 9. And then on my other days, I kayak once or twice at sunrise with a couple of buddies of mine. We paddle out into the sunrise as it comes over the water. And then I'll play tennis on the other days. And I've been playing mixed doubles tennis with my wife on Sundays for like 12 years. So that physical and intellectual and spiritual kind of thing is just part of who I am. And, I've tried to bring that to my work on city council. And, I tell people that you have to have your priorities in life, and you got to figure out ways to work these things in. Whatever your daily life criteria are, you've got to try and figure out ways to maximize them and work them in. And to be honest with you, one of the things I love about council is I love the intellectual stimulation. I mean, right. Every other week there's something new to read, new to learn, new people to meet, new questions to ask. And, I am intellectually curious.
Yeah.
And, I'm the guy in the council that's going to ask, well, why? And the 2 things I don't want to hear, because we've always done it that way. Or, I don't know.
Yeah. I tell you what, not to sort of start veering into politics here already,
you can.
But when the whole trolley debate was going on, and I start seeing the people calling each other anti-intellectuals online.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, why are they calling each other this? I'm like, well, yeah, it is rather anti-intellectual for people to not want to even explore other options.
And that's what got me so frustrated why I made the comment. So really, since you brought it up, we'll talk about it.
Go ahead. I'm fine to talk about as much politics as we want to.
I probably wrote a minimum of 4 white papers on trolley. And what a white paper is, when a city councilor wants to introduce a new policy idea, you're supposed to tell the council, I'm going to present this as a white paper. You get on the future agenda and you deliver your white paper, and then you ask the council, do you folks want to pursue it? And if you get a yay, then you go to the next level. So when I was thinking about running, I always laughed because there was this one older city councilor who's no longer there. I won't mention his name. His idea of a white paper was like a 1-page scraggly thing full of grammatical errors and typos and incomplete sentences. So I swore if I ever got elected to council, all my white papers would be grammatically correct, referenced, and thorough enough to give details. So getting back to the trolley, so I wrote a minimum of 4 white papers on the trolley, presented them in the sunshine during a city council meeting, explaining all the ideas why I wanted to do this. And then we're at the final stage where it's already passed the first budget. Now it's back for the second and final budget hearing. And so I'm kind of giving that history and that context. And I said, the trolley it's a pilot program. It's a study to gather data and facts versus assumptions that people already have about this. And let's see what the data really shows. Aren't you curious about the data? And I'd get people in the audience saying, no, we know the answers already. So to me, it was like, I said, well, God, this is the most anti-intellectually curious group I've ever met, something like that. And boy, people blew it out of proportion. I was only referring to that group. I wasn't trying to insult anybody's intelligence. Right. I mean, you can be intelligent but not be curious about things.
Oh, yeah.
So I just happen to be one of those people that ideas jazz me up. I like new ideas. I'm always looking at the what ifs, why nots, why are we doing it that way, So to have a group of people just stand there like this and kind of look at it and say, we know the answers already, we're not interested. It just kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah, when I was at the budget meeting, I was so incredibly surprised about how, just loud and disrespectful people can be in those meetings. Because I'd been to a couple of city council meetings before. I know I was at the one where they were trying to get through the decision if they were going to allow the medical marijuana dispensary on the island. I spoke at that one back in 2019, I believe it was. And then I remember we went in front of the city council, my dad, my sister, and I, when we were getting forced onto the sewer. Off the septic tank. And then I think there's probably once or twice that I went on when I was a baby, and I was just in there, and my dad was
carried in diapers,
something like that. But yes, I had recalled in years past about it being it's like well, this is what we think. It's okay, I understand that. I still think you're wrong though.
Right.
But then I was there, and it's just we should blow up the bridge. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's very, very. It's
there's a difference between a spirited debate that revolves around the issues and attacking people, right, for their views. So, if you don't like the idea of the trolley, that's fine. Give me some good reasons why. You have these assumptions that, well, if we have this trolley, people are going to come from over on the other side of the bridge. They're going to crowd our beaches, blah blah blah. So where's that coming from? Where's the data? What do you have to support that? Well,
is there a single city on the planet where there is actually evidence that a bus program brings people into the city? I have never seen that.
Well, the trolley isn't even a bus program. The trolley is designed, of course, it has to get here. Now, if we had a trolley barn, it could stay, but we don't have a trolley barn, so it has to arrive on the island. Once it arrives on the island, it just goes up and down from Cashapp all the way up to Eddington Place by the boardroom.
Yes.
And the idea is to come down on the main avenues, streets where there's shopping, there's dining, there's beach access, or there's activities. Let's say you wanted to go on a dolphin tour and it was leaving from Cashapp, and you live within 2-3 blocks of Collier Boulevard, and you didn't want to try and drive down to Cashapp and look for a parking spot, so you'd walk to the trolley stop, jump on, and go on your dolphin watch.
Right.
Or if you're staying in the hotel, maybe you could actually exist on Marco Island without a car, So, I mean, those are the kinds of things we're looking at, but to have people sit there and say, well, we already know what the answers are going to be, that's just kind of frustrating. And so, again, attacking someone like myself or any of the counselors for personally versus saying, that's kind of a dumb idea. I'll give you another example. It's, about raising kids. When I was raising my kids, boy, they had some dumb ideas. And
we tend to do that,
right.
Yeah.
And so did I, as their dad, by the way. But I would always say, listen, William and Mike, you're good people and you're smart kids, but occasionally you say something that's dumb or you come up with a dumb idea, And so I want to separate when I criticize the idea versus I criticize the person. And I've tried to always do that I can be critical of people's ideas, especially if they're misinformed, they're not based on accurate information, or they're not based on any data at all. But I never, criticize people for just expressing those ideas. But, I guess my "you're not intellectually curious" comment, to me, it was almost kind of, funny.
In jest, yeah. I thought it. Personally, when I saw it, I actually laughed out loud because I thought it was very funny.
And the trolley, again, to me, a trolley is fun.
Yeah.
Like Went to visit.
Which, I don't know if you happened to see our video that we did about the trolley.
I did. Now I have to go check it out.
Which, Jordan, I know we
So
had
you mean
a
it
couple
would
things-
actually be fun for you guys?
Well, yeah, Jordan, go ahead. I know you had some things you wanted to say.
Yeah. So we had done an episode where basically we went along the route and we had thought to ourselves, it's a good route for tourists. It's a good route for the few people that are around Collier Boulevard. So we came back to the Kava Bar and we had created a kind of alternative route that was passed out at the city council meeting.
I handed, when I first met and said we should do this podcast, I handed the
I remember that.
Yeah, and I was just kind of curious on if, like with criticism in the trolley and everything, what your opinion about that was.
Well, I think, again, oh no, we didn't do it. I'm looking at this as a pilot, as a pilot, just to see if people will who will hop on and hop off. Will residents use it? Will visitors? Where are people going? What are the best times? And people are already critical. We're spending $200,000. If we really extended it and it became a full island circulator, I would love to see it go up Winterberry, stop at the Art Center, stop at the softball field, then come down Heathwood, stop at Mackle Park, stop at the library, stop at the Historical Society. But you got to start somewhere. So I figure if it shows potential and the metrics show what the popular stops are and who's riding it, and hopefully then people say, what, maybe this is a good idea. Let's look at alternative or expanded routes. My original intention was to have two different routes, one going up and down from Eddington all the way down to Caxamas, and the other circulating, coming up Winterberry and down Heathwood and all the way out Bald Eagle. And this way you would hit like 90% of the cultural,
that would be amazing. Yeah.
And, and it also expanded it geographically so that, I say people would walk 3 blocks, so 3 blocks from Winterberry, 3 blocks from Heathwood adds, a whole new demographic to the possible ridership.
Oh, yeah, because personally, I'm on Heathwood, so I'm about 2 miles from where would be the
Right, and you're not going to walk 2 miles.
No.
It's funny, when I got elected in 2020, it was so exhausting. I told my wife, hon, we're going to go away for 4 days, and we're going to go up to Anna Maria Island, because I want to check out their trolley and see how it works.
Right.
So we rented a place on the beach, and we didn't move our car for 4 days. And we took the trolley to breakfast. We took the trolley to the beach. We took the trolley out drinking. We took the trolley when we went on a dolphin tour. And along the way, I talked to residents and guests. And there were residents who used it to go to Publix to get a bag of groceries. They said, why should I drive when I can hop on the trolley?
Yeah.
So I think it has great potential, and I would welcome additional routes. But, first, to sell it to this point where we actually are going to try it, you saw the effort and the resistance. So if we get back some favorable metrics, I'm hoping there'll be less
We've
resistance.
got this far. Let's see if we can get it any further. All right, I like that perspective on it.
Yeah.
All right, so I know there were we've talked the trolley to death, and so have everybody else everywhere. So I know there were a couple other things that we wanted to talk about today. Namely, I want to talk about water quality.
Sure.
Because now I've seen signs everywhere like vote them out, Irwin and Blonna, save our waterways. Yeah. So, and I know that of course you kayak all the time, and you're of course.
I'll give you the whole history.
I really want to hear your perspective because all I hear is people just vilifying.
Well, I'm the scapegoat for a conspiracy theory about water quality, which we'll get to.
Right.
Let's go back 50 years when the Mackle brothers and Deltona Corporation, who are gods in the eyes of people, developed.
My bells are going off. I'm excited for history lesson.
Developed this island, and they decided to build 242 dead-end canals.
Right.
Now, a dead-end canal means that it just stops there. So the dead-end canals in some areas, like just before you hit San Marco Road, there's a couple of canals. I can't remember their names. They're literally 1.5 miles from the river. And
I know exactly what you're talking about.
And,
I can't
and,
for the life of me
coming
remember.
the other way, the dead end canal, is a landmark. So there was never built into the equation connections of these
Sandhill?
canals. So you have all of these dead end canals, and for water to circulate from the origin, like the northern half of the island, from San Marco River to the dead end, I think it might be Goldenrod. No, it's not Goldenrod. Collingswood. Well, one of the ones up dead ends at San Marco Road. It takes about a month for the water to get there and to flush it out. And the same thing from the southern half. So mistake number 1 50 years ago made by the beloved Mackle brothers was they didn't have, the canals connecting and interconnects. And they didn't have a cut through on San Marco Road. They literally cut the island in half with all the northern canals dead ending at San Marco Road and all the southern canals dead ending at San Marco Road. And like right now in Winterberry, for example, you have 2 Winterberry bridges that allow water to flow from, from Roberts Bay into like Landmark and those canals. Well, if we had 2 canals bisecting San Marco Road, the whole island would flush north and south.
Right.
So you had dead-end canals, you had no north-south connection, you had no maintenance plan for maintaining these canals.
Right.
So like when we became a city, and from the very beginning, we had a maintenance plan for our roadways. All the roads get repaired and resurfaced on a regular schedule. There was never a maintenance program set up for the canals.
Really?
Never.
That's...
Initially, there was never a fertilizer ordinance either. So you had these 4 things that were put in play that set the stage for our water quality now.
So there's been things just in the works since 1965 that have just been a detriment to
things
the island
that were
you're getting
done that would have improved flushing, would have improved, periodic dredging. So we don't get to the point now where we have 1.5 foot of sediment that's leaching, nitrogen and phosphorus and create, contributing to algae blooms and stuff like that. So the problems really started 35 years ago. In 2017, I got involved with Sam Young. He was running for council on water quality. So I worked on his campaign, and I actually attended with him the interviews for the Dr. Harper study that ultimately was granted to Dr. Harper to do the water quality study. Well, as soon as that water quality study results came out, I ran a workshop for the city, and I led the workshop. I delivered papers and everything. This is going back to like 2021. And work with the city manager to develop what's called a matrix of solutions to address all of the recommendations of the Harper report. So we got all this going, and since then, it's been 4 years, our nitrogen impairment, our levels of nitrogen are below impaired. So as soon as we get off that nitrogen impairment list, we'll move to the next level of study and look at what's causing the low oxygen levels, what's causing the benthic mats, and what people want to do, and I don't want to mention any names, but there's a group of people that immediately want to spend several $1 million on converting the reuse water treatment plant into an advanced wastewater plant that pulls like practically all of the phosphorus and nitrogen out of the water. What they really don't understand is that we are so low right now with the amount of nitrogen and phosphorus that's in our reuse water that we are past the state required levels with flying colors. We have a permit, we meet the demands of the permit, and our permit allows us to spray this water for irrigation. And that's what we do. Now these guys, for some reason, they feel that isn't good enough and that this reuse water is contributing to high nitrogen and phosphorus levels in our canals, which it isn't. But we'll go one step further. So just a little education here on reuse water and fertilizer. What's in the reuse water that gets applied to the surface gets immediately, it's called uptake, taken up by the roots of grass, trees, shrubs, and other plants. So it literally gets used, and then what percolates down into the groundwater gets tested monthly. We have a series of groundwater wells that our water utility uses, and they go in there and they test groundwater, and the groundwater tests are nothing like the surface water. Surface water, to begin with, the reuse water has very few nutrients. When you get to the groundwater level, it's minuscule. It's not measurable. So I fought the advance. I was part of this group, and I supported their ideas initially in the research. But I spent 2-3 weeks really researching advanced wastewater treatment. to me, I just said it's not necessary, and I'm not supporting it. So I got on their, I can't say shit list, can I?
You can't. You can.
Okay,
We're
well,
not going to say.
I got on their list, and so now I'm the bad guy list.
Right.
Even though for 5 years I've been kind of working my butt off on clean water issues.
Well, I
So that's the
gotta
story.
hand it to you. That's
And it's the power of
It's a rough
social
go.
media that you create a narrative and you keep pumping it out there and no one challenges it. And then it gets on all the toxic places like Nextdoor.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you have illegal signs condemning people who've actually voted for every water treatment issue that's come up in 4 years. And, you know,
Right.
the two people on the sign are Becky Irwin and myself. We have fully funded every request for money for clean water that's come up since we've been on council. Yet we're somehow made to be the bad guys. You know, is what it is. That's politics on Marco.
yeah. It's this. I guess maybe this. I don't know if it's just the first time that I've paid close enough attention, but this campaign this time has seemed on both sides. The mailers I've been getting, just like all the
Pretty
it's like,
nasty.
what are people hiding? All those sorts of things. It's been interesting to
You
see.
guys know
that,
something about mailers that I learned is that political action groups can form,
Of course,
and they can put out stuff without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
I mean, mailers that go out, I have no idea, first of all, who the group is, and second of all, where that mailer came from. They never call you and say, you know, is this an accurate representation of your views? You know, do you oppose this, you know, counter position? And it was
It's
like an
so
eye opener
odd.
for me. I never
Yeah, I
realized.
feel like they would have to. Like, I feel like.
Now, if I'm putting something out, if I'm putting an ad out, I have to be very clear. Paid by Rich Blonna from Marco Island City Council, and my ad, if it's on Facebook, has to meet all of the criteria and scrutiny of Facebook.
Right.
And you know, and my mailers, I would never put a mailer out that had inaccurate information
course.
that someone could easily look up and know that I was misrepresenting. But if you're a political action committee, you can pretty much send out what you want. So, you know, I that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's fine. We can. I'm totally fine leaving it there. So we've talked quite a bit about the water quality.
Yeah.
Another thing that we wanted to get on was conservation collier.
Yeah.
I know that you had some notes and some opinions that you wanted to share on that.
You know, it's funny. When I ran in 2020, one of my platforms was support the referendum to reestablish conservation collier. It's
Right.
a 10-year referendum that comes up at the county level, and it's 0.25 or 0.025, 25 cents on 25 cents on $100,000, I believe, goes into this fund. And the fund is used by that program to acquire land that has high preservation value. So, you know, I read about this. I said, wow, this is great. I'm going to make it a platform issue, because we had parcels of land on Marco Island that, you know, are habitat for things like gopher tortoises and burrowing
Right.
owls, which just don't exist anywhere else in the
Yeah.
world, right? So I put that.
What are some examples? I know we did a whole episode about the otter mountain, episode about
that was
the
first preserve.
Yeah, and about the burrowing owls.
Yeah.
What other than Otter Mountain? What are some other places on Marco
Well,
that
we
are
have
like
this ridge,
conservation areas?
we have this geographical formation that goes from Sheffield all the way down, and then it goes and parallels inlet
Yes.
all the way down to Otter
Yes.
Mound. And it's a ridge. It's the highest elevation land on Marco Island, and it's got it's a native hardwood habitat, and it's got the underbrush that is like delicacy for gopher tortoises.
Yes.
So it's prime gopher tortoise habitat. It's high and dry. And what I did when I got elected is I went to Audubon and I said, help me identify the most valuable parcels that you think we should try and preserve, and I'll work with you and we'll nominate them to conservation collier. So I literally split the list up with Audubon, and there were realtors that had signs on some of these properties, and I called them and I said, you guys ever hear about conservation collier? And some of them, yeah, we're not interested. Well, the realtor and the developer that owned the 4 parcels next to Publix on South Barfield,
Yes.
that's prime habitat, and there's an eagle's nest there. So I reached out to them, and they said, no, we never heard of it. So I met with them 2 hours, and I said, you know, we could nominate your properties, and if they get approved by conservation collier staff, you can get fair market value and get them sold, and they'll never be built on, never be developed. So I got them. They said, that sounds like a great idea.
So did you do this like as a counselor? Like,
Yeah,
once you
I went
got
to them as
elected?
a
Wow,
city
that's so cool.
councilman. I said, listen, I will bring this back to the council if you guys approve it. So we got them to nominate the 4 parcels. They got listed, AAA rating on the A list, and they got approved for purchase by the county
Right.
at cost of $5 million.
Wow.
Right, and there's another parcel all the way down at Cashapp, not far from Otter Mound, by Indian Hills.
Yes.
That is a waterfront parcel.
Is that really big area? That's
Yeah, and
like
it's right
completely empty?
next
Yeah,
to where
I
there was
love
an
that spot.
archaeological dig where human remains are found.
Yes.
And that was part of the acquisition cycle. So we got
Cool.
four lots next to Publix and the one down at Cashapp. Total cost of $5 million.
Wow.
And I want to continue that. I mean, there are some parcels right now in cycle 12 that are up for acquisition. And I want to be there to go to the BCC meetings and to speak at Board of County Commissioners meetings and speak in favor of them. And that's what I did with the other parcels. Every time they were on the BCC agenda, I went to those meetings, I waited, I spoke at public comments and spoke in support. So I've got a reputation now as like that annoying city councilor from Marco who wants to spend all of our money preserving Marco Island parcels.
I mean, like the thing is,
I'm only kidding. I got a lot of support from the BCC.
But no matter what. I mean, that is just something that I'm preserving the nature of Marco, because I mean, I've heard from so many people about it. It's like, one of the biggest mistakes we've ever made is becoming a city. If we use that power that we have, in one of your roles as a city councilor, you're using that to actually like further the benefit of what came before and the actual the critters of which their homes are being taken by development. No. I mean, I don't know if you saw that video that was going viral this week about the bear that was in the Naples Outlet Center Mall.
I didn't really see that. No. I haven't had much time to really look at videos.
Yeah, right outside my workplace, there was
kidding.
I saw it while I was at work. I'm like, that's outside. There was a bear running through the mall there. It's like we're taking up a lot of
that's
land,
why we got to preserve it. There's one thing I learned is it's also a fine balance.
Yeah.
Every lot that you take out of circulation is a lot that you lose some tax money on. So you don't want to go buying up all the lots, but you want to buy up the ones that have critical habitat. Right. Their critical habitat rather. So I want to be really, really selective moving forward on the next set of acquisitions. The other thing I want to do that, believe it or not, is not in our land development code is I want to be able to change our code so you retire the density, the dwelling units associated with that land. So now...
What does that mean then?
Well, when you calculate, everybody's talking density, right? Density. Density is the total acreage divided by the total number of allowed dwelling units. So on a parcel of residential land, you're allowed so many dwelling units per acre. So those lots, and any lot, even Veterans Park, the lots that make up Veterans Park, there were dwelling unit density credits associated with them that still exist. So the point is, if down the road, for whatever reason, the county goes bankrupt and sells those conservation kaya lots, they can be built on. I would like to see it change so that if we preserve a piece of land, it's preserved in perpetuity. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, you've got to take away the dwelling units that factor into the whole density equation. So that's the next thing I'd really like to fight for, see if I can get some support. But doesn't that make sense? I mean, if you're going to preserve land, you want to make sure that...
Preserve the land. Preserve the land. Not just like, well, let's keep it like this for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that a lot. Let's see. Was there anything else that you wanted to talk about?
One other thing I want to talk about is what I consider the role of a city councilor.
Yeah.
Right? There's one or two people that like to stand up at a city council meeting and say, you're supposed to represent, the full-time resident who elected you. And that's true. That's true because the only people that can vote are people that live here full-time, right? So if you're a snowbird...
Or listed as their primary residence.
Right, primary residence, right. Which means you had to live here 6 months and a day, right?
Right.
So you could live here 5 months and know all your neighbors and be a great, person, but be considered a snowbird. So according to these folks, they don't count as much as only the full-time residents who voted for me. The way I look at it is, yes, those people elected me, but I represent everyone.
Right.
I feel it's my legal responsibility to ensure the safety of full-time residents, of part-time residents, of visitors, of staff, and of all the businesses. And so to me, my responsibility as a city councilor extends to the whole of Marco Island, not just those people who are fortunate enough like me to live here full time. And people just don't get that. They want me to make a pie chart and say, well, 60%, 80% should go to the residents and the rest should be... No, I'm sorry, that's BS.
Right. Yeah. Because, there's so... Marco Island is such a unique place. So it's not really a problem that you're going to have in other places where it's just like, oh, yeah, we've got... Because there's basically three types of people on Marco. You've got your full-time residents, you've got your snowbirds, and then you've got your tourists.
I like to call them visitors.
Yeah, yeah. I guess, yeah, tourist can almost feel like a slur, and depending on who says it. But, yeah, so yeah, visitors. And everyone's spending money here. So everyone is visiting here. And the thing is, if you're going to do something that, like something that I said on our episode about the Jolly Bridge, if you remember, there was, of course I won't name any names. There were people mentioning at the budget meeting about it's like, oh, what we should do is we should just we should have gotten rid of the bridge and just be ferrying people over. It's like, I'm from Nantucket and over there it's like or we should put a toll back on the bridge. I'm like, all right, that
would really help traffic a lot, wouldn't it?
Yeah. That's what Jordan said. It's like, well, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater here. Let's not make it worse for everybody just to try to spite other people. It's like, just because you are fortunate enough to live here full time doesn't mean that you're better than anybody else.
And one more thing, it goes way beyond dollars. To me, my primary responsibility is ensure the health and safety of everyone on Marco Island. So what do you want me to do if I'm only supposed to represent the full-time residents? If a tourist gets injured, you don't want me to send an EMT there? If there's a burglary that involves a visitor, you don't want me to send the police to investigate? It's
all
the health
animals
and
are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
Of everyone. One other thing that's really interesting, and maybe you guys will get, because a lot of people don't get, because everybody's talking about overdevelopment. Blonna favors overdevelopment of the business community. Well, I hate to tell people.
You're the conservationalist.
Well, besides that,
okay.
the island again was divided into chunks by the Mackle brothers, who are gods, right? And if they had their way, the island would have been developed all the way out to Route 41. Those canals that were dug on the other side of the Goodland Bridge, oh, by the way, they were going to be development. So fortunately, through environmental groups, the island is the island. But still, it's divided up into approximately 22,000 sections of land called building lots that people own.
Right.
Now, when I moved here in 2012, there were about 1,500, maybe 1,800 building lots available. And, I'd ride my bicycle and there was a lot of open space and I'd see the water and it was really cool and everything. But over the last 12 years, about 1,500 of those lots have been built on. And that's people that own the property who finally either have the money or the wherewithal to build on it, right?
Right.
So while people think that's growth, it really is just filling in what was apportioned from the beginning. There's no more new lots that have been created. Matter of fact, we've shrunk density by a lot of people are combining lots. They'll do what's called unification of title. God bless them that they have the money, but they'll be, they'll own this lot and they'll buy the one next to it, and then they'll take out the utility line in the middle, the right of way, and they'll unify the lots. Well, when you do that, you now cut the density in half. So we've actually reduced density through unification of title. And, we can only grow to the number of lots that we have that are built in already to the land development code. And density is those total acreage of those lots divided by the number of dwelling units. It's so people say, you're going to overdevelop. We can't overdevelop,
It's not possible.
Right. Unless we
So
maybe
shut up about
we take over one of the islands, the 10,000 islands.
I have an idea. All I need is a boat, and I need about 12 able-bodied men and some blunderbusses.
It would be comical if there wasn't so much anger associated with it, and violence and God.
Well, we're lucky it's not quite violence yet, but
Yeah.
the moment that we have
But
I'm
it's
just
still
imagining political violence on Marco Island, how that would be.
still
That would be
heaven.
a sword cane.
It's still heaven, right? I was out there campaigning, holding the sign, and somebody came up and they were kind of cranky, whatever. I said, listen, look up at that sky, man. Look at those clouds. I said, those are ours forever. I come from Newark, New Jersey. When you fly into Newark, New Jersey, all you see is grayness. Never saw a cloud like that in my life. So it's like, please just stop and kind of, regardless of, the other thing, Marco Island is bigger than any one city councilor or any one person. Marco Island is an entity upon itself. It's got a history. It will have a future long after I die. So I think some of these people that either run for city council or out there in the community take themselves way too seriously.
Yeah.
The forces that impact on Marco Island, we can't predict them. Look at COVID.
Yeah.
Could anyone have possibly predicted the
Absolutely
impact
not.
of COVID on the demographic shift to Marco Island with homeschooling, with people working from home, with a lot more younger people, younger married people coming in, raising families here? Man, it changed everything. That wasn't voted by the city council.
Of course not.
Look at the effects, of hurricanes and things. So there are forces that go way beyond. I never take myself that seriously to think that I am bigger than Marco Island will ever be.
Yeah. That's great. So I've loved talking about all this. Was there when it comes to I guess the issues and your platform, was there anything else that you wanted to
No, I'm going to keep on preserving open space.
That's great.
Try and keep some of the master plans that were proposed and approved. I would love to see through. I would love to see the old Marco master plan, acted on, because it's just visionary in the way it opens up space, opens up a waterfront promenade on the river. Yay! Hayden Dubois and I from the planning board wrote a white paper called the 10-Point Plan for Revitalizing Old Marco. And that was one of the things it incorporated, was opening up a waterfront promenade, having a circular traffic pattern. I want to see that come to fruition.
Cool.
There's a 5-year Parks and Rec master plan that we just approved that's going to really be visionary in terms of, my little chunk of it is starting to look at parks as a blue-green experience, not just green.
Yes.
Open up these waterways to paddlers, kayakers, canoeists. Right now there's very limited access to the safe inner waterways. I'd like to see that come to fruition.
The only place that I ever I only ever cast off when I'm paddleboarding off the bridge.
Yeah.
Or I go to Isles of Capri.
And the bridge is choppy.
Yeah.
I mean, there are days,
Trust me, I know.
My friends and I, we paddle across the San Marco River up into Addison Bay as the sun rises. And I'm telling you, getting across the river, there's cross currents and wind. So, yeah, wouldn't it be nice to be able to have some access to the inner waterways, which are safe? And then a couple of things. I created this ad hoc business development and redevelopment advisory committee. They're really coming up with some interesting revisions to the comp plan, to the land development code, that are really going to kind of bring us into the 21st century.
Right.
Some of the things that developers, like young entrepreneurs like yourself, if you wanted to start a business, there are so many things that were adopted from the old Collier County codes that just don't
doesn't
factor
make
in.
sense for a 4x6
This might even be illegal. You're in a public space shooting.
No, I actually, they're good to do any event.
Yeah, I'm only
outside,
kidding you.
I've been told.
But I mean,
So,
I wouldn't
who knows?
surprise me.
I mean, if someone, I don't know if we have. Yeah.
Do you have the requisite number of parking spots for this podcast?
I don't know. Who knows at this point? Call the cops. I don't care.
But so there are things like that
That's
I mean,
funny.
there's a dude that bought a condo. First of all, I didn't know that strip malls could be condos, so I learned something new. So
Yeah.
we bought a unit in a strip mall condo and assumed that with the unit came the parking that was assigned to it.
Right.
Well, it turned out that somebody else who owned the unit before him sold off the parking spots to someone else. So the guy now has 2 units and half the parking.
That's
And
insane.
it's like, how could that ever happen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, so
That's really
there are
interesting.
crazy things like that that go on that
Yeah.
I would like to see some justice kind of granted there, you know?
That's cool. Well, let's take a little shift here,
Woo.
because let's take a little shift.
Okay.
Because we've I think that like fully just you did a very good job of explaining your platform.
Oh,
And
thank
I
you.
feel like I got to know a lot more about where you stand on different issues and stuff. A lot of things that I specifically care about too.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was curious about that because you guys are young. I'm
Yeah.
73. I got like 40 years on you at least. So I was curious how you perceive some of those things. I'm
Oh, yeah.
glad to hear that they resonate with younger folks. You know?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know our generation. We're all about like the environment because I mean we're the ones inheriting this planet, and so we're the ones who are going to have to deal with this in a couple years.
I've got
so
a 30-year-old
thank
son,
you.
a 36-year-old son, and a 40-year-old son. And
Yeah, well-
I kind of dig it.
Yeah, we're 22, and you'll be 21 by the time this episode
Woo.
comes out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
So we're going to have a drink then. Okay.
Jordan, do you have questions?
Well, if we are gonna shift from a little bit
Yeah,
of
go.
political talk, I was gonna do a couple rapid fire questions.
Sure, go
Yeah.
ahead. Shoot.
So our infamous one is
no.
gonna be tea or coffee.
Tea or coffee? Coffee for sure.
Well,
Okay,
where
cool.
do you go get
You're
your
the first
coffee?
person to have answered this because would you believe it? Both Benita Schwan and Deb Henry had never even tried coffee before.
Oh man, I love coffee. I have like 6 cups of coffee a day.
Wonderful. Where's your
In the Blonna
go-to?
coffee maker in the kitchen. Seriously, I'm not I shouldn't say that, but I'm not a go out to the store kind of coffee guy. You know, occasionally if I'm on the road, you know, I'll stop. I'll get Dunkin' coffee, you know,
Yeah.
or 7-Eleven.
I am a huge fan of the Dunkin' coffee.
Yeah.
It ranked pretty high when we did.
But
our,
mostly the thought of going out in the morning to buy coffee, I just kind of make my own. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I'm in a rush and also have the Panera Bread Unlimited Sip Club. So
And
I
you
just
want to
run
hear
in.
something really, really scary and decadent?
What's that?
I drink instant now.
Oh no! Podcast is over.
I know, isn't that terrible? They're speechless, folks.
Yeah, that's okay. So, all right, who would you say your biggest role model is? Either for just in your life in general, or in leadership in any sort of capacity.
Biggest role model.
We've
It
had a
had
lot
to
of
be my
interesting teachers.
doctoral professor at Temple, Marv Levy, who's since passed on. But I guess I was, how old was I when I was going for my doctorate? 1980s. So figured I was in my 30s, mid 30s. And Marv was in his mid 50s. And he was a very vibrant,
Right.
active guy. He was on ski patrol in the Poconos. He
Wow.
was, talk about intellectually curious. He had a really active mind and, you know, always challenge you to, you know, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I always wanted to be like him, someone who's very physical, and he taught human sex, which I taught, you know, and I love that subject. So someone who is vibrant, virile, active, and a scholar, a genius. So he was probably my strongest role model.
Yeah. So, this is one that we usually don't do, but I'm interested because you're a very learned man, and you've have a very strong grasp on your emotional, mental,
Yeah.
and physical health, and with that also comes creativity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
When you are, and also this is a podcast, so this is something that people listen to all the time.
Sure.
When you have downtime and you're going to be listening to something, do you prefer to listen to like an audiobook, a podcast, or music? And if so, what are you listening to in your free time? What is
I
you,
prefer to listen to music. I like a book in my hand.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I really don't like reading online, and I really don't like. I've tried Kindle. It's just not comfortable.
The physical medium is
Right.
is a lot better.
So I like to have a book in my hand, and I like to listen to 70s soft rock. I mean, you know, I've listened. I've seen James Taylor live. I've seen Simon and Garfunkel live. I've seen Joni Mitchell live. I've seen.
Now I know some ideas for songs to put as the cover
I mean,
image.
all the soft rock.
I'll do
from
Rich
the
Girl.
60s,
I'll do Rich Girl. Rich Blonna.
Yeah.
There.
I saw Elton John in his first U.S. appearance, and he
Really?
was the third act at the Fillmore East in the Village in New York.
That's incredible.
Behind Leon Russell was the primary act. Leon Russell, who later had Joe Cocker sing with him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second act was Chicago Transit Authority. They're now Chicago, of course.
Yeah.
And then the opening act was this young guy from England called Elton John.
Huh.
Saw him live, 6th row in the Fillmore East. It was
That's wild.
mind-blowing.
That's wild. Yeah. You know, my aunt saw Etta James's last performance.
Oh, that's
ever.
pretty awesome too.
Who'd she open for? She opened for somebody, and like no, she said it's like, why are you not paying attention? This is Etta James.
Opening act is tough. I did one dinner time speech. You know, when I used to do a lot of training and stuff.
Right.
And that was never again. I'm never going to compete with clattering dishes and people's conversations. You know.
I like being the main event. It's fun.
Open mic be like.
Yeah.
Since you have a fairly deep passion for music, I was wondering, do you play any instruments?
I don't. I was a natural born drummer, and we were pretty poor. We were like, you know, lower SES, blue collar. My parents, you know, worked in sweatshops, and I wanted to be a drummer. I had really good natural rhythm, and so I went to the school, and they had a music, you know, program, and they give you a pad, and you drum on this little pad.
Yeah.
And I said, the pad sucks. I want to drum, you know, but my parents couldn't afford to drum.
Yeah.
And I just gave it up. I stopped. Later on, oh God, it must have been in my 50s, I joined a drumming circle, and I bought a djembe drum. And I used to just pound away on my little djembe drum. So it's now still in my office. It's now an end table.
I'm getting streams of George Harrison here. So a little bit of where did you grow up?
Newark, New Jersey.
Newark, New Jersey. Okay.
Inner city.
Yeah. So what did an usual day look like when you were younger before you started in?
It was a pretty tough neighborhood. I mean, it was. Zip guns and gang fights were not uncommon. Let's put it that way. I'll give you my lasting impression of growing up in Newark. I was a very sickly kid. I was born, my mother smoked in her pregnancy and drank, and I was born with a pneumonia and a collapsed left lung. So for my first 2 years of life, I was in an oxygen tent. And I had really bad asthma my whole life. And it was determined that two of my main allergens were tobacco smoke and a dog. And both my parents smoked, and we had a dog.
Yeah.
So I spent a lot of time indoors by myself. And I remember this lasting images of me standing on the kitchen chair looking out the back window when all the kids are playing and running around having a good time. And I just, I couldn't do that. So it really piqued my interest in health. And when I got to like 8th grade, I was just determined to make myself healthier despite that. And so I started working out. I started paying attention to nutrition, spending as much time outside. I bought my own little room, pure air purifier.
That's great. Real.
But growing up in Newark, it was tough. I mean, I got bullied a lot. It was a very tough neighborhood. My favorite, shouldn't say favorite, my classic bullying story was my brother and I saved enough money on our paper routes to go to the pet shop and buy turtles. At that time, you could buy turtles.
Right,
so we had a little glass jar with 2 turtles, and we're walking back from the pet shop, and we got mugged. And this gang of kids stole our turtles.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I can relate.
So
my
it
turtle ran
was
away
not
when I was a kid.
the most fun place growing up.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
Well, so now knowing a little bit about where you came from, we're on Marco Island. This is a Marco Island themed podcast. Everything about Marco.
Yeah.
And I got a little bit of your day-to-day activities. If you're going out to eat on Marco.
Oh, don't ask me that.
Yeah.
question. I have so many friends who are restaurateurs.
I know.
I'll tell you what.
These are the tough questions. I can talk about
I'm
policy
going to flip
all
it on
day.
you. I'm going to flip it on you, dude. Here's the thing. There are so many good restaurants,
Right.
and I'm not gonna insult any of my friends who own restaurants, but what we lack is a Greek restaurant. We don't have a single Greek restaurant
There's
out.
great Greek restaurants in
Restaurateurs out
Naples.
there, we need a Greek restaurant. We need some good moussaka and souvlaki, all those good things.
I want to get a
Is the
gyro.
Greek food vendor coming back for the fresh market?
I don't know. For the farmers.
Farmers market, fresh
farmers
market, my bad.
I don't know.
We
All I
don't
know
know.
is I got shawarma at whatchamacallit, with lamb at the what was it, at a Mighty Muscles game, and it was it was so incredible.
Yeah.
Like everyone around me had hot dogs. They're like, "Where did you get that?" I'm like, "I'm not going to tell you. It was
Right,
great." It's like $13 for this, and I'm
So when
high
people say
heaven.
there's too many restaurants on Marco,
No, there's
No,
not.
there's not. That's
No,
like
there's not.
supply and demand. But why we don't have a Greek restaurant is beyond me.
That's-
so
yeah.
Get the word out, man.
I'm that's one of the reels from this episode. That's
Okay.
a great okay. We've got some loud music around us right now.
The fun of outdoor interviewing, right?
Oh yeah, no, this is great because I mean we were originally going to do this upstairs where above,
Yeah, with a nice little couch that's
Yeah.
embroidered and everything.
yeah, but I mean. When we did the episode with Benita, I was like, "This looks so nice out here."
And it's real,
like-
it's an hour you get a chance to really talk. When I was
Yeah.
back in the day, when I was writing books and I was a professor, I'd go into New York City and be on
Right.
ABC News, right? And it's like 2 hours to get in. They got an hour of makeup, blah blah blah. They shoot 45 minutes worth of tape, and then you get a 30-second spot on the 7 o'clock news.
Wow.
I swear to
Dude.
God. That's like the norm. You're lucky if you get the full 30 seconds.
That's insane.
Here's Rich Blonna. Tell us about your new book on stress management. So this is heaven.
That's great. That's great.
I'm
Well,
glad the sun finally got out of your eyes too.
Yeah,
I know.
I can feel human.
I didn't not melting anymore.
Not squinting.
Yeah. So where is it that you paddleboard in kayak? Where do
Oh
you
my
usually
God.
cast off from?
Favorite put in places. Well, like I said, in the morning, I love to paddle at sunrise. So we'll put in at the Jolly Bridge and we'll paddle across the San Marco River,
Right.
up into Addison Bay. So that's one put in. Put in at the Goodland Bridge. And from my house to the Goodland Bridge, I can be on the water in 12 minutes. And
Right.
from there, I paddle across Goodland Bay. I don't know if you're familiar with the area called Hell's Gate.
I'm not. No.
Yeah, at the very, very northeastern corner.
Wait,
of,
is that where there's like whirlpools and stuff over by
No,
Hideaway?
it's just a strong current because it's a passageway that goes from Goodland Bay into the 10,000 Islands.
Oh, yeah.
So you go into Palm Bay, Lighter Bay. That's my second
I
favorite.
was thinking on the opposite end of the island.
We'll go from the paddle park and go the opposite way. So, both the bridges, paddle park, the 951 ramp, and the Shell Island Road.
I love Shell
Caxambas, I love Caxambas, but
I
it's
only
been closed.
just discovered Shell Island like this
Isn't that
past
cool?
year. Yeah, when I was running every morning, I'd go do like 2 or 3 laps around
Okay, I thought
Briggs.
you'd go from 951
no.
out to there.
Goodness, no.
But
I'd
there's
get in
a-
my car with my dog and
Okay.
then drive up to Shell Island.
There's a
And-
marked canoe show there. Did you know
Yes,
that?
I did know that. Yeah,
that's cool.
I've been meaning to head out there, but ever since the paddleboarding incident of 2024, I haven't been out on the water all that much. I made the
See how he
mis-
throws that out, but he won't describe it, of course.
Well, I was about to. I made the
right.
mistake of not checking the weather properly.
Oh, God. Been there.
I don't know if you heard about that 911 call about during Tropical Storm Debbie about that guy who was stranded and marooned out on one of the barrier
Oh,
islands.
That wasn't you, was it?
A good magician never tells his tricks.
Oh, wow.
I'm not one to kiss and tell, but
It
yes,
can be
it was.
scary.
Oh, it was terrifying.
I mean, it's funny. I got caught in the middle of Goodland Bay in a lightning
Yeah.
storm.
Yes.
And I literally had to pull into one of the islands and hang on to the mangroves.
exactly the same
It
thing
was
happened to me.
2 hours with the weather was supposed to change. So it was, it was like 10 o'clock. I said, I'll go out
And
for
it
an
came
hour.
in so much
It came
sooner.
in.
Yeah, it came in
I
so
mean, I
much sooner.
saw it coming in from the Gulf, and I'm like paddling,
And
trying to get back.
I'm glad you guys are trauma
okay,
bonding.
yeah. No, because this is great because I was over at I was by Hideaway Beach.
Okay.
And I looked over towards the Jolly Bridge and I saw the sky was completely black.
Yeah.
This was that day before Tropical Storm Debbie,
Oh,
where it's
God,
like
yeah.
the lightning was almost worse than the actual tropical storm. because it wasn't supposed to rain that day until 6.
I know.
And it was 3:30. It came like 4.
I had the lightning all around me, like hitting the water. It was the scariest thing.
Ah.
It happened twice to me, and both times it was a 2-hour prediction. So I decided from now on, if it says it might have a thunderstorm in the afternoon, I don't go out. I go out 7 o'clock in the morning. No,
Hence why I've been waiting for rainy season to end to go paddleboarding. So now I finally can again.
Yeah.
I've been waiting to get done with this project here.
And
to
that's
be
the
able to
beauty
do
of being retired. It's when you're retired, you kind of can create your own schedule, which is the most beautiful thing. Which is why I really limit the things I say yes to at this point in my life. That's the other thing I learned is when you're good at something, people will suck all the life out of you.
Oh my goodness!
They'll ask you to volunteer for this, volunteer, head this, head that. And it really takes away your ability to control your own life.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the joy of being retired. So if it's going to rain in the morning, I'll paddle in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So
great.
someday you will experience that.
I know.
Retired on
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait. One of these days. If I play my cards right, I'll retire at 45. But
All right.
Well, it's been truly amazing. And as one more little final thing that we normally do with everybody, is there anything that you'd like to say right into that camera right there? Just let the audience at home get like a last word.
Sure. It has been a joy serving as your city councilor. I look forward to every meeting. I learned something new. I meet some incredible people. Tried to do the best job I could. Put my foot in my mouth a couple of times and I regret it. But, I put in the work and hopefully earned the right to come back for a second term. So thank you.
Wonderful. Well, Rich, it's been a joy interviewing you today. It's been a very enlightening conversation, and got to learn a lot about you, a lot about your platform. I've been having so much fun with this project, and thank you for coming out today. I know it's been...
I'm sorry I screwed up the time.
Oh, no,
You're all
fine.
good.
No, it's because I've also screwed up the time with our some other people that I've interviewed. So it's okay. I've done it, so it needed to be done to me. The karma had to come around. So once again, thank you so much for coming out. It's been a joy. Jordan, isn't this episode sponsored?
This episode is sponsored. I don't know who it could be by.
All right, it's sponsored by Raybert Media. I'll go first. Raybert Media, huge thank you to Raybert Media for providing a lot of the tech that we use on the podcast. Especially, you can see the massive quality uptick of this episode for providing some of the cameras today. If you are in need of a videographer for a wedding, for a corporate function, some real estate videography, call Jordan, not this one, at Raybert Media. You can send an email to jordan@raybertmedia.com. Once again, that's Raybert spelled with an E, ROEBERT, Raybert Media. Thank you so much to Raybert Media for sponsoring this episode.
And we also have another sponsor, Kava Culture, Kava Bar, Marco Island. Drink love. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Don't forget about their happy hour every day from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. They are open from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. and they have coffee all day. And they're a perfect alternative for alcohol with the same amount of fun.
Yes. So that's just about all that we have for today. Dr. Rich, where can people find you if they want to follow you online?
Okay, my website is richblonna.com, very, very simple. And my phone number, no, I'm not going to give my phone number. Go to richblonna.com. I hope you invite me back if there's any issue that's coming up on City Council and I'm lucky enough to get reelected. I'll be a lame duck. I can say anything, right?
Official friend of the podcast now.
Okay, great.
Oh yeah, if you get reelected, then you have no qualms about saying anything because you'll be termed out next time.
Right. So feel free.
Great. So richblonna.com.
That's
Cool.
it.
All right.
I was going to say, Ryan, where can they find you?
You can find me at my house. Don't go there. That's my joke I always do. So you can find me at www.richblonna.com. ryanmsullivan.com. You can find all my projects there. Website's under construction, but you can find everything about this podcast as well as the old podcast, my events page. We've got Jeopardy coming up. Oh, wait. By the time this comes out, Jeopardy already happened. Jeopardy's every first Sunday of the month. Oh, wait, no. Jeopardy is this Sunday. I'm so crossed. So you can see my events page there, and my music projects and all that and the other thing. If you want to just follow me on social media, Real Ryan Sullivan. That's RealRyanSullivan. Real Ryan Sullivan. Thank you so much. And Jordan, where can they find you?
You can most likely find me at the beach. No, I'm just kidding.
All right.
Now you got jokes now too.
I'm
We've
trying.
all got them today.
Yeah. No, you can find me at JGKraley03 on Instagram. I might have a couple projects coming up that are personal and a couple projects coming up for the podcast. So I hope you guys will enjoy those. Those launch in November.
Yes, we've got a lot of cool stuff coming out on the social media, so please follow the Instagram. And I'm going to get the Facebook thing figured out at Good Morning Marco Pod. And you can, of course, listen to Good Morning Marco Pod on all audio platforms. Please rate us 5 stars on audio. As well, if you're watching us on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. If you happen to be watching this because of a link that was posted on Nextdoor, go to YouTube and subscribe there, because you are probably not signed in to YouTube via the Nextdoor app. So please, it really helps us. Last time I checked, 98% of the people who watch Good Morning Marco are not subscribed. That is the most abysmal statistic I've ever heard in my entire life. So please, if you would find it in your heart to press that big red button that says subscribe down at the bottom, we'd really appreciate it.
Yes.
We need 500 subscribers in order to actually be able to turn a profit at some point on this.
We're
very
kind
much in
of
the hole.
We're kind of hoping to get that around New Year's.
Oh, yes.
So that's
Oh,
hopefully
that'd
our
be-
little New Year goal.
Yeah, if we can get it by New Year's, that'd be incredible.
That would be amazing.
Look out for the Coastal Breeze. Don Manley is writing an article about us that should be coming out in probably a week's time. So we'll catch you on that. With that, thank you so much for watching. It really does mean the most. And we will see you all in the next one. Bye.
All right.